So in today's class, we're going to look at how Bill Gates predicted the next 5 year would be like. And he says that if anything kills over 10,000 million people, 10 million people, it's going to be highly infectious virus. So infectious means contagious. So it's not war anymore that threaten us, but it's infectious virus, it's microbes that's going to kill us. And he says that the real problem here is that we've actually invested very little, so not a lot, in a systems to stop an epidemic. Epidemic means worldwide disease. So the real issue, the main issue here is not the virus itself, but what's the main problem is that we have no system to stop this kind of disease. And in the next sentence, he gives an example of how Ebola spread through most of Africa. And the tough challenge was that we didn't have any system. So there was no system to control this kind of disease. And he explains in details what the key missing pieces were. So there was no system, and some of the key missing pieces were that we didn't have a group of epidemiologists ready to go. So there were no doctors, or no one's working on the disease. And when the reports came back about the disease, it was very delayed. It was very late, and it was very inaccurate. So most of the information was incorrect. Also, we didn't have any medical team ready to go. So we didn't have a way of preparing people. So the problem here was that there were no enough doctors, there were no enough medical team ready. And the second problem was that the report of Ebola was very delayed and it was very inaccurate. Now let's look at this part very specifically in Korean. 자, 그래서 이 강의에서 지금 빌 게이츠가 이 강의를 시작하면서 우려했던 점은 뭐다? 우려했던 점은 바로 바이러스 자체의 문제가 아니라 우리가 대응할 시스템이 없다는 게 가장 큰 문제다라고 얘기를 했습니다. 그리고 이볼라 같은 경우에도 굉장히 심각한 문제였지만 에볼라 같은 경우에도 하지만 전문의들이 늦게 투입됐다는 굉장한 심각한 문제가 있었다는 것을 얘기하고 있습니다. 자, now we're going to move on to the next paragraph. Now let's look at the next paragraph together. So there was not enough treatment, not enough diagnostics. So he believes this Ebola treatment was a failure. And the WHO, what does this stand for? It's World Health Organization. And this WHO should be funded to monitor epidemics, but it hasn't done that yet. And he's worried that the failure to prepare could allow the next epidemic, the next disease, to be dramatically more devastating. It's going to be worse. It's going to be more catastrophic than Ebola. So he's worried that Ebola was a failure, but then if we don't prepare for the next one, the next virus is going to be far worse than before. And he explains why he thinks that the next virus is going to be worse. Because there was a reason, there were 3 reasons why Ebola didn't spread more, why it didn't become a worldwide pandemic. And explains in 3 reasons. The first reason is that obviously the heroic work by health workers. So the health workers, why Ebola didn't spread. The first reason was that there were lots of health workers working solely for Africa. But the second important reason is the nature of virus, because Ebola does not spread through air. So it is not contagious through air. And the third reason is that it didn't get into many urban areas. So when you say urban areas, it counts for more crowded. It counts for more populated areas. So it only got to less populated areas. And he says the case numbers would have been much larger if it had gotten into more urban areas. So next time we might not be so lucky. So he's worried that the next time the virus will maybe contagious through air and it may hit urban areas more. Now let me explain this part in Korean. 자, 그러면 지금 빌 게이츠가 다음 바이러스가 이볼라보다 더 심할 수밖에 없는 이유를 설명을 하고 있죠. 왜 다음 바이러스가 이볼라보다 심할 수 없냐? 왜냐하면 이볼라는 공기 전염성이 낮았기 때문에. 다음 바이러스는 근데 공기로 전염이 될 수도 있고, 다음 바이러스가 또 뭐예요? 인구 밀도가 높은 지역에 발생을 하게 되면 훨씬 더 위험할 수 있다고 우리에게 미리 경고를 해주고 있습니다. 자, 사실 경고라고 하지만 지금 어때요? 우리가 코비드 상황을 맞아보니까 사실 빌 게이츠가 정확히 추측을 하고 있었다는 것을 알 수 있겠죠. 자, 그러면 다음 문단으로 넘어가 보도록 하겠습니다. Now let's look at the next paragraph together. Bill Gates says that there are things that would make everything so much worse than before. So what is his purpose of explaining this lecture? He wants to explain that we need a better system. We need a better response system to prepare for the next virus. So let's write it together. So in this lecture, his purpose of explaining this is that we need to be prepared. We need to build a better response systems. So we can control the next virus that would be coming. And in the next paragraph, he specifically talks about how we should get prepared for the next virus, how we should handle, how we should deal with, how we should solve the next virus that's going to come. And he says that we should get prepared again for how we do it for war. So we should prepare it like how we prepare it for a war. So for example, for soldiers in NATO, they are usually all full-time waiting to go, so they are very much ready. So we should prepare for the virus like how NATO and how soldiers are ready for the next war. So those are the kind of things we need to deal with an epidemic. And he explains in details the key pieces of preparing for the next virus. So let's talk about the key pieces together. And the first key piece is that we need strong health systems in poor countries. So better health systems, not only in the better countries, but also in poor countries. They need to give birth safely and they need to get vaccinated very safely. But these poor countries are where they will see the outbreak very early on. Outbreak means the start of an epidemic. So epidemic usually starts in suburb or poor countries. So they can, if there is a health system waiting there, they can see where or how or why the virus started in the very stage. So the first thing we need is strong health system. And the second thing we need is medical reserve corps. So these means professional medical expertise, also known as medical reserve corps, who can study the virus, who can deal with vaccinations. So we always need to have expertise. We always need to have professionals waiting to work on the virus. Now let me explain this part a little bit in Korean. 자, 그래서 지금 빌 게이츠가 이 강의를 통해서 얘기를 하고 싶은 게 뭐냐? 우리가 이렇게 다음 바이러스에 미리 잘 대비를 하자, 미리 잘 준비를 하고 있자라는 얘기를 하고 있는 겁니다. 자, 그럼 이제 빌 게이츠가 구체적으로 우리가 어떻게 대비를 할 수 있는지 알려줍니다. 자, 첫 번째로 가장 중요한 건 우리가 마치 전쟁에 대비하듯 모든 게 체계가 다 있어야 된다고 얘기를 합니다. 그리고 중요한 그러면 요소들이 뭐냐? 제일 첫 번째 뭐라고 돼 있어요? 가난한 나라들, 우리 개발도상국에 많은 의료진들이 의료 체계가 잡혀 있어야 된다. 사실 에볼라가 더 크게 발전된 이유가 뭐예요? 특히 아프리카에서 제대로 된 치료 방법이 없었기 때문이에요. 그래서 많은 사람들이 개발도상국에 이렇게 좋은 의료 체계가 잡혀 있으면 우리가 이렇게 백신도 제대로 받을 수 있지만 또 뭐가 중요하다가 있어요. 전염병이 어디서 시작됐는지를 되게 빠르게 진압할 수 있다는 게 가장 좋은 장점이라고 했습니다. 자, 두 번째는 뭐가 필요하다? Medical Reserve Corps, 전문 의료진이라고 생각을 하시면 될 것 같아요. 전문 의료진들, 연구원들을 말하는 겁니다. 자, 연구원들이 언제나 비치가 되어서 어떤 바이러스가 시작이 돼도 바로 연구에 투입이 될 수 있는 많은 전문가들이 필요하다라는 얘기를 하고 있는 겁니다. 자, 그러면 다음 마지막 페이지로 넘어가 보도록 하겠습니다. Now, he continues to talk about how we should be prepared for it. So he wants the medical people, the MRC, to be paired with military so that we can do a simulation, so we can do a virus attack simulation. So if there were to come a next virus, we should always be prepared to how we should handle or how we should stop the virus in the very early stage. And the last thing he says what we need is we need advanced research and development. So R&D means research and development in vaccinations and diagnostics. So what he means to say is that we not only need medical people to actually take care of the virus, but we actually need more people to work on prevention of the virus. So we need to build vaccines before the virus appears. So these are the important three pieces that we need to be working on to prepare for the next virus. Now let me explain this part a little bit in Korean. 자, 아까 앞에 부분에서도요, 빌 게이츠가 우리가 다음 질병에 대해서 준비해야 될 게 첫 번째는 뭐라 했어요? 개발도상국에 의료팀이 있어야 된다고 했고요. 두 번째는 전문 의료진들이 바이러스를 분석할 수 있게 해야 되고요. 마지막은 뭐예요? R&D, 더 많은 연구진들이 미리 백신을 개발할 수 있게 도와줘야 한다. 그래서 더 많은 이 분야들의 투자가 필요하다라는 얘기를 합니다. 자, 그럼 다음 부분 다시 영어로 한번 넘어가 보겠습니다. So he says that there are some breakthroughs and we need to work very, very quickly. And he believes that these budgets are very modest compared to the potential harms. So the budget, even if the budget is a lot, the potential danger that will come afterwards will always be bigger because the World Bank estimates that if we have a worldwide flu epidemic, the global wealth goes down by $3 trillion and we will also have death. So these kind of investments, these kind of three investments offer significant benefits beyond just being ready for the epidemic. And he believes that these kind of healthcare and these kind of research and development will reduce global health equity. So this means that more people will be access to healthcare. So better health and better preparation for the next epidemic. So he believes that these are the priority. This is the most important thing we need to be doing right now. Because, again, like he said, what will kill us after 5 years will probably most likely to be a virus, a big worldwide epidemic. Now, let's explain this part a little bit more in Korean. 자, 그래서 이렇게 빌 게이츠가 정리를 하고 마지막에 뭐라고 해요? 앞으로 이런 곳에다 돈을 투자하는 거는 전혀 아깝지가 않다. 왜냐하면 이렇게 전체적인 우리가 국제적 health, 국제적 건강 가치, 국제적 건강 자본을 낮춰서 모든 사람들이 이렇게 의료 시스템에 접근을 하기 쉽게 만든다면 우리가 바이러스에 대해서도 미리 예방을 할 수 있을 것이고 다음 바이러스가 와도 우리가 미리 준비를 할 수 있을 것이다. 그래서 바이러스 예방에 굉장히 많은 투자가 필요하다라고 얘기를 합니다. 미리 바이러스 방지를 위한 투자가 필요하다 라는 것이 바로 빌 게이츠의 5년 전의 주장이었습니다. 자, 정말 신기하죠? 빌 게이츠, 당신 도대체 어떻게 아셨던 걸까요? 너무 궁금합니다, 저도. 어떻게 빌 게이츠는 5년 전에 벌써 이렇게 큰 코로나라는 상황이 이렇게 지금 빌 게이츠가 예상했던 것처럼 이렇게 모든 게 맞아 들어가는지는 모르겠으나 사실 빌 게이츠가 5년 전부터 계속 우리는 바이러스에 준비를 해야 한다고 했습니다. 하지만 실질적으로 아주 제대로는 준비가 안 돼 있었지만 아직 많은 백신들이 개발이 되고 있는 이 상태에서 빌 게이츠의 이 연설도 우리가 더 이제 집중적으로 듣고 우리가 더 생각해야 될 부분이 아닌지라는 생각을 한번 해보면서 오늘 강의를 마치도록 하겠습니다. 자, 조금 강의는 짧았지만 조금 어려운 표현들이 있어서 이해하기가 어려우실 수도 있을 것 같아요. 선생님도 사실 많은 단어를 찾아봐야 됐어요. 그래서 여러분들도 강의를 보시고 나서 꼭 클래스 카드도 한번 해보시고 단어를 한번 읽어보시고 직접 빌 게이츠를 강의를 여러 번 들으면서 내용을 더 잘 이해하셨으면 좋을 것 같습니다. 자, 오늘 강의는 여기서 마치도록 하겠습니다.